My name is Abigail Mercer. I'm 32, and the only reason people in my family ever said my name was to apologize for me. Born into the kind of Southern lineage that measures worth by legacy and last names, I was the daughter who never belonged, not polished like my sister, not profitable like my brother, just inconvenient. When I was 21, my mother left for Europe, told everyone I was taking time to find myself, and drove me into the mountains with a suitcase and a lie. What she left me in wasn't a vacation cabin. It was a rotting house with no power, no phone, and secrets buried behind its walls. I never told anyone what happened in those 27 days, mostly because I couldn't remember. Until now, until she came back. And the first thing she asked me was, "Did you ever open the door in the floor?" The gravel cracked under my boots. The air in these woods never felt like real air, thick, wet, almost metallic, like it had memory. The house rose from the ground like a skeleton left behind, half covered in moss, boards warped from the years. Still 2 stories, still breathing, still waiting. I hadn't been back since that summer. Not once. Not even when the nightmares came so vivid I woke up clawing my sheets. The image of a locked room burned into my eyelids. Not even when I found that one photo, folded and hidden in my mother's jewelry box. Now, 11 years later, I stood on the porch with a crowbar in one hand and a digital recorder in the other. You record trauma, or you repeat it, someone once told me. I clicked it on. First breath. Shaky. July 9th, 7:46 a.m. I am at 174 Fox Tree Ridge. The property was never transferred. The deed is still under Helen Mercer. My mother. I pushed open the door. Creak. Darkness. No echo. The silence was too whole. I swept the flashlight across the living room. Furniture covered in white sheets. One torn down the middle like claws had ripped it. Mold on the windows. Faint smell of damp wood and decay. The couch. The same one I sat on when she drove away. The last sound was her engine fading, and the word independent like a knife dressed in sugar. The kitchen clock was still frozen at 4:13. I stepped into the hallway. A dust-covered photo frame. Me, age 6. Smile too wide, eyes not knowing yet what disappointment would feel like. The hallway led to the master bedroom. Door shut. Locked. But there were no locks on any bedroom doors here. I leaned into the doorframe, pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. Then, barely audible, something moved inside, like the drag of cloth over floor. I held my breath. Listened harder. Nothing. I stepped back. Tried the knob again. It clicked. The door creaked open. Inside the bed was made. Perfect. Too perfect. On the pillow a note. In her handwriting. Curiosity is a lovely thing, until it kills you. Beside it a key. Old. Brass. Heavy. It looked familiar, like it belonged to a cabinet from the 1800s. But when I turned it over, engraved on the back, just one number. 74. There were no numbered rooms in this house. I scanned the room, adrenaline clawing through my stomach. Under the bed, a trunk. Padlocked. The key fit. Inside, my old suitcase. Untouched. A doll. My favorite. One I'm missing. And buried underneath the locket. My locket. But the chain was caked in something. Brown. I touched it with a cloth. Flaked. Blood. The power was out, but I had a generator. I stepped outside. Hooked it to the fuse box, flicked the switch. The lights sputtered on. Back inside, I opened the fridge. Empty. But one thing inside, a single photo, stuck to the back wall with tape. Me. Sleeping. It wasn't an old photo. It was recent. I hadn't slept here yet. The house wasn't abandoned. Someone had been here. Watching. Waiting. The flashlight flickered. Something creaked overhead. Not the house. Footsteps. Upstairs. I was supposed to be alone. I didn't move. Not right away. The footsteps above me stopped as suddenly as they'd started. No sound. No creak. Nothing. like whoever, or whatever, had been up there was now listening back. I didn't blink. The locket in my hand still had dried blood under the clasp. I wrapped it in the corner of my shirt and slipped it into my jacket pocket. My fingers brushed the brass key again. 74, just that number. No other markings. No manufacturer. No date. No purpose. But something about it felt like a warning. The stairs groaned beneath my boots. I went slow, one step at a time, breathing shallow, flashlight angled low. No shadows moved. No creaks replied, but the tension had weight now, thick, present, watching me. At the top of the stairs, I turned right. Hallway. For doors. One was wide open. That door used to be boarded shut. I remembered it. Not why. Just the image, nails punched through rotting wood. My mother once said, "Not everything locked is meant to be opened." The boards were gone. The room behind the door wasn't empty. Papers on the floor. Dust kicked up from fresh footprints. On the far wall, tacked crooked, a blueprint of the house. Drawn in thick black marker, aging yellow. I scanned the layout. Living room. Kitchen. 2 bedrooms. Master. Upstairs guest. But in the center, circled in red ink, were 2 numbers. 7 to 4. Room 74. Except this house didn't have numbered rooms. Never had. Unless it wasn't a room. Maybe it was a code. A sequence. A reference. My eyes moved across the blueprint again. In the bottom corner, a label had been scribbled in faint handwriting. Crawl space. Secondary intake 74. Crawl space. I felt it like a static charge to the spine. Then a beep. Soft. Electronic. Behind me. I turned fast, light swinging across the hallway. Nothing. Then again. Beep. From the corner of the room, under a pile of molding papers, an old burner phone. Flip style. Cracked screen. Covered in dust. Battery icon flickering red. One missed voicemail. I pressed play. Static. Then, a child's whisper. Breathless. "Don't let her lock you in the wall, like she did to me." My blood turned cold. Cut to black. Next scene. Town. Gas station. Dingy. One of those no-name, cash-only places where the windows are covered in lotto signs and faded, no loitering stickers. I needed answers. A signal. Somewhere public. Somewhere I could breathe. I sat in my car, parked under a busted light, and ran the locket through a quick search. Serial numbers etched beneath the clasp, barely visible. I ran it through the national database. Match found. Case PM 2009-41. Name Marley James. Status missing. Last seen April 14th, 2009. Last known location Ridge County, Tennessee. Where I was. Where this house was. Where I had been left. No photo on file. Only a single note in the report. Victim believed to be underage. No confirmed relatives. Case closed due to lack of leads. Evidence destroyed. Destroyed. But the blood was still on my hands. Back in the car, I stared at my own reflection in the mirror. Pale. Eyes too wide. Mouth trembling just slightly. "People always think monsters live in the woods," I whispered. "But most of the time they drive us there." I drove back to the house. I don't know why. Some people run from haunted places. I go back in. Because the only way out of hell is through the truth. Crawl space. I found the door behind the washer in the laundry room. Bolted. Rusted. Same kind of brass lock as the key. I slid it in. Turned. It clicked. Inside, low ceiling, tight walls. Smell of rot and metal. My light caught cobwebs and boxes. Dozens. Old VHS tapes. Black bags. A stuffed bear. A child sandal. Labeled. MJ. AG. CW. ND. Initials. Inventory. This wasn't storage. It was record keeping. My stomach churned. One tape sat in the middle, not boxed. A white label. Do not destroy 74. I grabbed it, slid it into the old player in the den. The screen cracked with static. Then a voice. Familiar. Calm. My mother. Marley wouldn't stop crying. I had no choice. You promised not to tell. Abby, don't make me do it again. Her voice didn't shake. Not even a little. She wasn't talking to someone else. She was talking to me. I felt the room tilt. This wasn't my first time here. It was my second. I had been here before. I had seen something. Then I forgot. Or was made to forget. But the locket, the voice, the footprints, they remembered me. And now I knew why the floor creaked differently near the fireplace. Because something or someone was still there. She wasn't just hiding Marley. She was hiding what happened to both of us. I didn't sleep. I sat on the living room floor with the old cassette player on repeat. My mother's voice, too calm, too smooth, kept looping. Don't make me do it again. Over and over, like she was rehearsing something, like she'd said it before. Maybe to me, maybe to someone else. By sunrise, I'd made a decision. There were lies in this house, and none of them lived on the surface. I grabbed a hammer from the back shed. The handle was rotting, but the weight felt good in my hand. Went back inside. Stood in front of the fireplace. I knocked. One spot sounded different. Deader. I struck. Plaster cracked. Dust bloomed. A cavity opened, breathing out cold air. I coughed to cover my mouth. Kept going. Another hit. And another. The wall caved inward. Behind it, darkness. And the smell. Old sweat. Mold. Copper. I crawled in. It wasn't a crawl space. It was a chamber. A mattress. Bare, stained. Drawings tacked along the walls. Childlike. Sharp red crayon strokes. Stick figures. One of them was a woman. Long hair. Holding keys. Standing next to a door. The other figure, a child, hands pressed against what looked like brick. The words above it read, 74 is the bad room. In the corner, a small sweater, folded. Faded tag inside, MJ. Marley James. She'd been here. Not just once. Long enough to draw. Long enough to make this her space. Long enough to be forgotten. I reached up, more drawings. More red. One of them showed two girls. One outside. One behind glass. Both crying. Cut scene. I drove into town. Ranger station. A man named Elijah Knox still worked there. Old, limping, a knee brace from a fall in '06. He remembered the house. But not me. Girl went missing up there once, he said. We searched the woods. Never found a body. No prints. Nothing. I showed him the sweater. He flinched. That belonged to her, he said. Marley. She was maybe 10. He leaned in. They said she just vanished. But I remember the report. Said something about claw marks on a wall. Back at the house, I knew where to look next. Under the floorboards. Living room corner. Same place the blueprint had circled. 74. I pried up a panel. Dust burst out, then a tin box. Inside a cassette. Labeled in blue ink. Abby. 2014, first time. My stomach twisted. I hadn't remembered a first time. I played the tape. Click. My mother's voice soft. Sweetheart, do you remember the game? You promised you'd be quiet. You said you wouldn't tell. Then my voice. Weak. Tired. I didn't see her. I just heard her crying. No, Abby. We're done with crying. You're not her. You're better. A beat of silence. Then a sound. Dragging. A door shutting. A lock turning. Then nothing. I dropped the recorder. Staggered back. I didn't just find Marley's chamber. I'd been there. I'd seen it. Heard it. Maybe even helped cover it. And then forgot. Or was made to forget. And the truth wasn't in the walls. It was inside me. Ripped out. Sewn over. But memory has sharp teeth. And sometimes it bites back. I pulled open every cabinet, every drawer looking for something. Anything that could explain what I was part of. In the attic, I found a box. Inside, letters. Dozens. All addressed to Helen Mercer. Different names. Different handwriting. All thanking her. For the child. For making the problem disappear. For the discretion. There were receipts. Bank transfers. Legal filings. Adoption forms. None of them official. She'd been placing children. Illegally. Quietly. For a price. And one went wrong. Marley. And when I started to remember, she tried to trade me too. But something stopped her. Lightning flashed outside. The house flickered. I heard it again. A soft sound. Footsteps. This time not upstairs. Inside the wall. I pressed my ear to the panel near the old bedroom. There it was. Breathing. And something else. A voice. Abby. A whisper. Not mine. Not Marley's. Someone else. Alive. I remember you. Mom didn't leave me alone in that house. She left me with someone she was hiding. I pressed my ear to the wall again. Nothing. No whisper this time. No breath. Just my pulse pounding. Abby, it had said. Not screamed, not cried. Whispered. As if it already knew I was listening. I didn't imagine it. People don't imagine their own names being spoken from inside walls. I ripped the panel back, hands raw from the nails. Dust poured down like ash. Behind it, darkness again. But not empty. There was a second cavity. Smaller. A hidden chamber. I crawled inside. Tight. Breath caught in my throat. Flashlight in my teeth. The space was barely 3 feet deep. But someone had lived here. Another mattress. A chipped mug. Drawings again. But these were different. Sharper. Angry. Scratch marks lined the wall like tally marks. Hundreds. One per day. God. And carved into the beam above. Just one word. Violet. I stumbled back. Air thinned. My lungs screamed. 2 girls. Not one. Marley and Violet. But I only ever knew Marley's name. Because Violet was never on the records. Never reported. Which meant she never got out. Cut scene. Sheriff's office. Ridge County was all wood paneling and coffee-stained carpet. A deputy named Nolan sat behind the desk, eyes tired. I didn't tell him everything. Just enough. I gave him the sweater. Showed the box of fake adoption letters. Told him about the chamber. He didn't flinch. But his pen paused. Then, your mother's name again? Helen Mercer. He nodded slowly. She filed a report back in 2014. Said her daughter ran away. That you were troubled. Mentioned hallucinations. Of course she did. Discredit before they discover. He opened a drawer. Pulled a file. Thin. Too thin. She insisted no follow-up was necessary. Even signed a waiver against further contact. What about Marley James? Blank look. I slid the locket across the desk. She went missing. 2009, 10 years old. This belonged to her. He blinked. I think I remember. But the case was closed. State-level jurisdiction. Then reopen it. He didn't answer. Back at the house, everything smelled heavier. Like the walls had begun to sweat. I checked my phone. No signal. Walked to the edge of the woods. 5 bars. I called AMC Investigations, private group, former law enforcement. Had used them once on a custody case for a friend. A woman answered. Cold tone. Fast voice. What's the location? Fox Tree Ridge. Ridge County. I need confirmation on a missing person. 2 girls. Possibly illegal adoptions. Pause. Then. We've heard that name before. What name? Helen Mercer. You're not the first call we've had tied to her. Blood froze. How long until you can be here? 3 hours. 3 hours alone. I walked the house. Every floorboard now suspect. Every creak a whisper. Then, I saw it. A light. From upstairs. Not flickering. Moving. Not electricity. A flashlight. Someone else was inside. I ran up. The hallway was empty. Bedroom door open. Inside, nothing. But on the mirror, a fingerprint. Fresh. Smudged across the word someone had written in red lipstick. You forgot her. Flash. Scene change. I opened the filing cabinet in my mother's old office. Back of the bottom drawer, hidden behind tax forms, one envelope. No return address. Inside, photos. Dozens. Black and white. Children. Some smiling. Some not. Each marked with a date. A location. And a name. Except for one. The last photo. No name. Just a date. March 3rd, 2014. The day I was left here. The girl in the photo. It was me. But not alone. Another girl stood next to me. Older. Her eyes circled in pen. Captions scrawled underneath. Violet. Keep her quiet. Back of the photo, one more word. Failed. I staggered back, photo trembling in my hands. She'd tried. But Violet didn't stay quiet. And now, neither would I. Because I knew what the sheriff hadn't said. I saw it in his eyes. Someone had already paid to keep this buried. The house went quiet in a way that wasn't natural. Not the calm after storm kind. The holding its breath kind. I felt it before I saw it. The generator outside coughed once. Twice. Then died. Darkness slammed down. I moved fast. Grabbed the flashlight. Phone in my pocket buzzed, one bar then none. A voice came from behind me. Abby, don't turn around. I froze. I knew that voice. Dex Holloway. Former federal contractor. Private investigations. The man AMC said would handle intake. The man who wasn't supposed to be here yet. Slow motion. I turned. He stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his jacket, gun low but steady. Calm eyes. Too calm. Like someone who'd already rehearsed this moment. People always think the truth sets you free, he said. It doesn't. It just tells you who's going to pay for knowing it. He stepped forward. I ran. Cut. Rain. Mud. Trees slashing my face. Dex was fast. Military fast. I hit the woodshed door hard. It burst open. Inside, dark, metallic, smelling of oil and rot. Something cracked across the back of my skull. The world tilted. Black. I woke to cold concrete. Wrists zip-tied behind me. Ankles bound. A single bulb overhead. Swinging. Click. Click. Room 74. Not a number. A designation. The floor sloped downward. Walls poured concrete. No windows. No exits. And in the corner, a journal. Open. Written in careful, childlike script. Marley. My chest tightened. I crawled toward it, hands numb. First page. She said I had to leave so someone else could stay. Second page. She said the other girl would take my place. She said she was better. My breath hitched. Pages blurred past. Drawings. Dates. Names. And then, photos. Me. At 21. Standing outside this woodshed. And Marley. Standing behind me. Alive. Older than 10. Almost my age. The realization hit like ice water. I hadn't been left here to survive. I'd been left here to replace her. Dex crouched in front of me. You were never meant to remember, he said. That was the deal. Deal with who? My voice came out raw. He smiled thinly. Your mother wasn't selling children, Abby. She was fixing problems. Unregistered births. Custody nightmares. Political embarrassments. He tapped the journal with his shoe. Marley didn't cooperate. And Violet? I asked. His jaw tightened. Just for a second. She screamed. He stood pacing. You ran, he said. That summer. You panicked. You made noise. Someone saw you. So Helen did the only thing she could. She erased me, I said. She tried. The words landed heavier than any blow. Dex leaned closer. Trauma's funny. The brain hides what would kill it. You forgot. She didn't. A sound cut through the rain. A car. Headlights slicing through the cracks above. Dex stiffened. Stay, he snapped, turning away. Bad move. I lunged. Shoulder into his knee. He stumbled. I rolled. Hands scrambling. Grabbed the pipe loose from the wall. Rusted. Sharp. He swung. Missed. Lightning flashed. The pipe connected with his wrist. The gun skidded across the floor. We collided. Hard. I remembered something then. Not a memory. A rule. Violence doesn't come from strength. It comes from decision. I decided. The pipe came down again. Dex went down. Gun in my hand now. Shaking. Loud in the small room. Footsteps above. A door opening. My mother stepped into the light. Helen Mercer looked exactly the same. Same posture. Same eyes that never quite reflected what was in front of them. She took in the scene. Dex bleeding. Me bound but armed. And sighed. So much mess, she said. I always hated improvisation. You traded us, I said. You traded children. She shook her head. I saved families, she said softly. You have no idea how many people begged me. And Marley. She was supposed to leave. And Violet. Helen's eyes flicked away. Dex stirred. He lunged. A shot rang out. Dex collapsed. Silence slammed back into the room. Helen stared at the body, then at me. You survived, she said. I never planned for that. I stood there shaking, gun heavy in my hand, journal pressed to my chest. She took a step closer. Abby, she said, voice almost tender. You were the one who got away. I looked at the names in Marley's handwriting, at the photos, at the room built to erase people. No, I said. I was the one you meant to disappear. And this time I remembered everything. 2 months later, the mountain snow had started to melt, but the cold never really left. They found 6 other hidden rooms. Some were empty, some weren't. I testified 3 times, once before the state, once before the feds, and once before a grand jury in Albany. Helen never said another word. Not in court. Not to me. She just stared ahead like this was always how it was meant to end. A silence more weapon than weakness. They tried her under racketeering, child trafficking, obstruction of justice, and unlawful imprisonment. But that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was explaining why no one had noticed. Why I hadn't spoken. Why a girl could vanish, scream, be replaced, and the world kept spinning like it didn't happen. People don't listen to the discarded. They don't search for the unclaimed. The Mercer estate was frozen. Every bank account, every trust, every asset, which meant every sibling turned their rage toward me like heat-seeking missiles. You're just trying to ruin her, Dana hissed the one time she called. She was protecting us, Alex said, like the words tasted noble. But Violet's name was still on the ledger. And Marley's journal was now state evidence. And me? I had the key to room 74. They offered me protection, a new identity, relocation. I declined. You can't build a future from the ruins unless you stand on top of them. I stayed, moved back into the abandoned house, tore it down brick by brick, turned it into a clearing, planted wildflowers. Sometimes I still heard the voice in the walls, the echo of Marley, the echo of myself, the girl who learned silence could be a sentence. The journal sits in a glass box at the local courthouse now. No one touches it. No one forgets it either. Because stories like this don't fade, they repeat. Unless someone burns them down to ash. Detective Ames visits sometimes. Brings donuts. Checks my wiring. Never says what he's thinking, but I know. He wonders how I didn't become one of them. Or worse. I told him once, you don't bury pain. You feed it to the light. He blinked and said, that's not how most people do it. Exactly, I said. I get letters. Women from halfway houses. Men just out of prison. Kids from group homes who scribble their names and don't know where to send them. They all ask the same question. How do you survive what was meant to kill you? The answer is simple. You remember. You remember every locked door, every voice that lied, every eye that looked past you, and then you do the most dangerous thing of all. You outlive them. Sunset on the ridge was always the most dangerous time. That's when the wind stilled and the memories knocked louder than they should. But tonight it was quiet. No breath behind the trees. No cameras in the dark. No one watching. No one left. Just me. And the echo of my mother's voice, soft and sharp like a knife in velvet. You were the one who got away. She was wrong. I didn't get away. I came back. And this time, I stayed.